Hey everybody, I'm Quinn.
And I'm Scott, and it's time for the Almost Friday Show for January 19th, 2012.
And off the press, we're talking about DC's new logo because it's kind of boring.
Yeah, they went from like a cool comic logo to a We Make Paper Towels logo.
Yeah, it's paper towels. There's still a paper product, but now it's paper towels.
So yeah,
And like printer paper. But like just regular white printer paper.
like 18
Nothing
pound paper.
nothing special
Not the
about
24-pound nice paper.
No, just
And
or something
like,
that's luster
it's
or
like
glossy.
$12 a ream, and you're like,
Yeah,
a little more than you wanted to spend.
Yeah.
But the logo might sell you.
that's true.
Then we're going to Tech Insight. We're talking about Apple's announcement today with their education-based announcement and updates to iBooks, as well as the latest on SOPA and PIPA due to the blackouts that we experienced yesterday.
And behind the lens this week, we're talking about Kodak, who's just filed for bankruptcy.
Finally.
Yeah, some would say,
Yes.
indeed. And a somewhat affordable, fully digital converter for Canon to Sony.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Without further ado, it's time for Off the Press.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Off the Press for this week. Not a
Very
lot.
short off the press. So we're gonna just go and say that DC did a thing that broke the internet in half again.
Really? Because I didn't notice it. I didn't feel the disturbance in the force. I didn't feel the shuddering of the tubes.
It was more of a small crack in the force. It wasn't a type of thing, you know.
Okay, but I still didn't hear the depressed mewing of the lolcats. This really wasn't big news to me.
No, it's not huge. Basically, DC leaked a new logo. I believe the leak came out last Friday. It was basically it's a black and white thing, and then earlier today they released a couple of full-color versions of it. I believe it's going to come out in March. They're going to start using this.
Yeah, that's what they were saying just when I was reading about it. They look kind of...
Bland, but there's only so much you can do with the two letters, Sean.
I mean...
Yeah, basically they've gotten rid of the whole swirl and star thing and have gone with a, I'm just gonna say a peeled back D, and they peel back the D to reveal the C. That's basically what it looks like.
Which is different colors and is supposed to be a different homage to a different superhero
Yeah,
thing, story arc.
something
Something like that. I mean, there's a Green Lantern one, there's a Watchmen one, which is yellow and has
There's
the
one
blood.
for like Batman. There's
Yeah.
a plane.
Batman,
Plane one.
plain one. I don't
Flash, I think.
know. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. So it's they have a theme.
Yeah, they've got a thing going. I believe I read somewhere that these are going to be animated at some point for some things.
Okay.
Like probably their movies or TV shows, maybe their websites and their digital comics and the like. But until that, I'd say I like the colored versions now that I've seen them a lot better than the black and white one that came out on Friday.
I'm indifferent.
They're indifferent. All right. Like I said, only so much you can do with two characters,
But if you're good at it, you can do a lot with characters.
I suppose.
Like this seems lazy to me. I guess maybe that's what it is. It's like it's DC. You make comics. You do neat creative stuff.
Also,
mostly.
fun fact, the font is some kind of Gotham font.
It's almost as bad as the sans serif joke I heard for Deus Ex.
Her.
But so we get into the new
Alright.
releases.
Yes, also very short
Yes. So kicking it off is Underworld Awakening.
in the movie theaters. this
Yes,
week.
that's coming out into the theater. So that's basically Kate Beckinsale
In
waking
tight leather.
up. Yeah, in tight leather, waking
Yeah.
up out of a tube in a cryostasis thingy,
More vampires and werewolves, but not of the sparkly variety.
which I'm actually kind of happy for. Not
Yeah.
to mention that's still a better love story than Twilight.
I'll probably end up seeing this at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it was, if you like the Underworld series, you'll probably like this. If you like the Twilight series, don't watch this.
I feel like the Twilight series are probably like this too,
For the wrong reasons.
for all the wrong reasons.
I want vampires!
No.
And hey, what about DVD and
DVD
Blu-ray?
and Blu-ray. This one's really cool. I discovered it on the Apple TV using their cool trailers thing. It's an anime movie called Redline. Seriously, people, go watch the trailer.
If you
It'll
have-
blow your mind.
Yeah.
Turn off the lights, turn up the volume.
Turn up the lights, turn up the volume. If you're using any illicit substances, wait, because I'm sure you'll have an interesting experience. But I tell you, I'm excited.
Yes.
I want to see this.
I want to see this based on the trailer alone, and that's how trailers should be done.
And then coming up is also Merlin, the third season complete. I haven't really watched this.
I haven't either, but I've heard really good things about the series. I know it's on Netflix. It's another
Yeah.
BBC kind of all ages geared, kind of younger type of show.
Yeah, and it was showing on Space Channel here
Yeah.
as well, and I picked up a couple shows every now and then, late night, really.
This is definitely something that I'll have to catch up on at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting nonetheless.
It's a
Story
British
of
season.
Merlin.
It's really short. No.
Yeah, and it's the story of Merlin the Wizard.
Yep.
John Hurt as the dragon that shows up in it.
Oh, cool.
It's pretty good. But that
That wraps
it
it
up.
Yeah.
Really short. So, I guess enjoy your week, and hopefully we got something more next week. Have fun.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech Insight. We're starting with Apple news because today Apple had their education keynote.
Yeah, which was not, no iPad 3 or anything like that. But it is significant if you're a fan of iBooks.
It's true.
Or iTunes U.
Yes.
So
Which we know people that are. Dave loves iTunes U.
a lot of people do, and there's a lot of really interesting free stuff available through iTunes U from a lot of really good sources.
Yeah.
But it's been kind of underused because it's kind of hidden in the corner of iTunes.
Yes.
There's a dedicated iTunes U iOS app now,
Yeah.
which I think is the best way to bring it to the masses, really.
Absolutely.
So that released today, free in the App Store. As well, we got iBooks 2, which I'm just going to call iBooks because they're too stupid, which basically brought along textbooks.
Yes.
So they had a couple of the big guys sign on, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, and the third person we've never heard of.
Which is like Hardington, Mifton,
Yeah, something like
Dunder
that.
Mifflin Corp.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, all right. We'll go with that.
So basically, big textbook publishers, at least in a lot of arenas, sign on saying, we're going to support this, and they shipped it with a biology textbook, a chemistry textbook, kind of like high school-esque textbooks.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing is the way they're doing, the way they're looking at textbooks, because you're looking at full integration with audio-visual interaction.
Yeah, which I think is really awesome. I mean, it's like a lot of people are talking about, this is a revolution in the way of teaching with this kind of content because it allows us to directly access video clips and to go into animated slideshows and to look at graphs that move and all that kind of stuff. So as a student learning, you have access to a lot more pertinent data because they're showing you, it's like, we're talking about how this drill works. Well, instead of just writing in words, here's a video clip of someone using this drill now and the effect it has and stuff like that. So I think it's a really interesting way of bringing more content-based learning to students.
And I think where this is going to have big impacts is where in places like elementary school and early high school,
Yeah.
where even in late high school, where kids really need multiple ways to take in information to learn.
For sure.
So, that'll hit every type of learning
Yeah,
in
because
one package.
we talk about that in high school, where you have people that learn by reading, people that learn by doing, and people that learn through personal example. And so having the combination of at least two of those three items into a book is going to hopefully improve the chances of said student learning that content.
Yeah, I think it's a really refreshing take on it for sure. In terms of the university content, there is some there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count on your textbook bill going way down because of this.
Yeah.
A lot of publishers are not going to be releasing their big, thermodynamics books and stuff like that on iBooks 2 right away necessarily. But I don't think that that's the same market they're trying to hit necessarily, because if you're someone reading a thermodynamics textbook, you don't want a silly video explaining something to you.
Not necessarily, but there are some really cool features for people using it as a textbook, which is the ability to quickly highlight things, choose different color markers.
You can make cue cards and stuff.
Yeah, so anything you highlight, you can then turn into cue
Yeah.
cards to very quickly review notes for studying. You can add notes to any of the things that you highlight as well if you're sort of following along the book as the teacher's talking and you want to add your own notes
See,
to
it makes a digital textbook actually useful, because those are all the things you can't do easily anyway with a PDF of a textbook.
Yeah.
Or with, at least, you can do it in PDF. It's not very easy. It's a lot easier in the new iBooks interface. But you can't compile it at the end. Like, you can go make cue cards out of it. You can compile all your notes on pages and things like that. So, it looks like a pretty full-featured set. Textbooks are capped at $15.
Yeah, and Apple has said that they are sticking to that price point because they feel it's the only way that this is going to be a viable alternative.
Yes, well, because, you can buy ebooks of textbooks now
Yeah.
that work on Kindle and things like that, like the Kindle DX or whatever, XL, whatever they call it, the really big one.
Yeah.
But they're looking like $40 to $60, depending a textbook, because a hard copy textbook is going to be $200
Yeah.
up to. I mean, high school textbooks are more like $70, $80.
Yeah.
But $15 is a good price point because it's if the publishers have signed on with it, it's not unreasonable at all.
Yeah. Now, it's sort of a catch-22 with the way this pricing scheme works, because these companies are now going to, instead of updating their books every 5 years, which is the average now, they plan on updating the books every year. Now, the downside of that is that the schools or students have to rebuy these textbooks every year. But the upside to it is that you're always getting as much up-to-date information as possible. So although at the end of the day it might end up being around the same price if you were to look at that same textbook over a 5-year period, the benefit is that you're always having the most up-to-date version of it.
And don't forget, you're not necessarily going to use that textbook for 5 years.
Correct.
You know, if you're in grade 11 and you have a chemistry textbook, that's only going to serve you for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you don't care about the updates past then because you'll be doing something else.
Now, the other really cool feature that they announced today was the iBooks Author.
Yes.
Which is also free software that allows you to create books that you can then make available on iBooks for anywhere from free up to that $15 with a typical 70-30 revenue share from iTunes. They have to approve it like apps, but I think this is a really awesome tool for the average user to be able to do things like create a photo book or to create, manuals or instructions on things that they like to do, with the potential of opening up good revenue for people who don't necessarily have the know-how or the complete access to publish a book.
Now, the idea of iBooks Authors is that it's for people, teachers who want to create supplemental material to textbooks, or people who want to write textbooks themselves. It's kind of to blend in with the whole textbook theme, but it kind of really opens up the iBooks domain to whatever you want.
Yeah.
You could just make a normal text novel.
I'm going to make a book about working on a Toyota Corolla.
Yeah.
And I can have pictures and video and graphs and all that kind of stuff in here.
It's quite easy to approach, so you can drag in Word documents, Pages documents, Keynote presentations, things like that. You can just start typing in it. Or you can get really complicated and you can do, JavaScripting and things like that if you're at that level to make it really interactive.
And some of the books that we've seen that people have made today, because it all launched today, have been actually really quite impressive.
Yeah.
Just some of the ability to add text markers to photos and zoom in and then pull out to a full screen, and being able to very quickly embed working keynote presentations smaller in set, as well as video clips and stuff like that. It really allows you to create a very social and media-rich book, which I think is pretty cool.
Now, if you want to check that out, you have to be running Lion. It's only available for Lion, and you can get it in the Mac App Store for free.
Yes.
Hefty download, about 150 megs, I think.
Yeah.
So check it out by all means. Be aware there's some questions about the EULA. I couldn't get a firm answer from what I read, but there's a possible chance that Apple is keeping exclusive rights to the content you make in that, which means you can still sell it through Apple, but that's all you can do with that book. You couldn't turn around and sell it to, if it's a really good novel and someone wants to publish it, that can't be done.
Yeah.
Theoretically, I don't know if that's 100% true. Plus, no one's ever proved the binding legal power of a EULA.
It's true.
Since, you could probably prove pretty easily in court that you never read it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just something to be aware of if you're that guy who's really worried about those issues. Speaking of complicated issues, SOPA and PIPA have been in the news forever, and we've told you all about what they are and why they're not good for the internet. Why we're talking about them again this week is the blackout happened yesterday, the 18th of January. A lot of web pages chose to, it's kind of like a civil disobedience type thing. It's like a protest, this is what could happen if these bills are enacted.
Yeah.
So I think the big one for the general public anyway was Wikipedia.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people mentioning on Twitter, oh yeah, I went to go look this up and was like, God damn, it's blacked out. So there was a lot of people being like, shit.
The only thing I think I felt, at least from the people who aren't watching the show, for example, are they don't know why it's blacked out. They didn't read any of that stuff. They go, oh crap, Wikipedia is not working. Let's go to Google.
Yeah.
And because there were a lot of people, oh my God, why isn't Wikipedia working? I hate this. Why stupid Wikipedia and things like that. And I mean, you can find tons of them on Twitter from yesterday. And I mean, I don't think it had the kind of impact they wanted it to have.
True.
In my opinion, anyway, because, and we talked about this yesterday, but a lot of the sites that blacked out were tech niche sites.
which if you typically read those sites, it's next to impossible to have not at least heard about SOPA and PIPA at this point.
Yeah, I think the only two really that stood out for me were Wikipedia and Reddit.
Yes.
Because I know everyone goes on Reddit. Again, I don't think people were really aware fully of the issues, but it definitely was. It picked up steam a lot because at first it was just a few websites, but I mean there was easily 10, 15, 20 websites I tried to go to in normal internet usage yesterday that were blacked out.
Yeah.
So what the result of that, on top of every website pretty much had a link to the Senate webpage and links on how to call your senator.
Yeah.
So what happened was the Senate webpage basically crashed
Yeah.
by mid-morning, which, I mean, it means it's getting some traffic, right? So there is an effect there. I mean, whether it's just the tech community or not, it's still an important effect. And a lot of senators who were backing PIPA, including one of the persons who wrote the bill,
Yeah.
have stepped away.
And I believe there was some word circulating that there was a petition going around at the same time that got nearly 7 million signatures, digital signatures, for it as well. So there's definitely an outcry for it. But what was interesting was that we saw some hypocrisy from some of the people who were supporting it. The MPAA came out and said that these people going in, these companies blacking out their sites was basically an abuse of power, which is really the pot calling the kettle black when
Yeah.
the MPAA is like, no, we want to do this to abuse our power, but you can't do it to abuse your power because that would be an abuse of power.
Naturally.
Yeah. And then we also, in light of this, found out that a lot of the senators who were directly supporting it were in fact breaking their own rules by having basically unlicensed photography as Twitter background pictures or campaign website background pictures. And also a lot of people knew that music and video clips that were being used in a lot of these supporters' current campaigns, because that's going on right now, was also against this. So it's kind of like, you guys really don't know what it is you're supporting because you then turn around and blatantly disregard it because you don't even understand what it is you're doing wrong. So it's kind of interesting.
Very interesting. Now, the vote for the PIPA bill is next week.
Yeah.
So that will be interesting to see what happens, especially with a lot of senators changing their minds. In fact, the guy who wrote the bill and now backed out has actually called a few other senators and said, you should probably not back this bill anymore.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. I think there's still, the consensus is there's still a majority supporting it, but who really knows what they're thinking and what they'll do when it comes to vote day.
Yeah.
And SOPA is delayed until late February, where they have to rework the bill. So it's not going to be a vote for quite a while. And the White House is officially opposing SOPA, which I don't know that it'll help very much. Obama's weight really doesn't carry that much in Congress and the Senate, as we've learned.
Although it does prove the broken nature of the entire government when the White House itself says, we don't really like this. And they go, yeah, we don't really care.
Well, actually, that's a good thing. You
I
don't want
guess.
one man running your country.
I suppose.
But
However, we all like when Stephen Harper was like, hey, this ISP business, I'm not supporting it.
So, we'll see what unfolds, and it'll definitely have wide-reaching implications either way. Hopefully status quo. Last but not least, something interesting for the Windows 8 folks. So Windows 8's been kind of fast-tracking, considering how vastly different it is from Windows 7 and previous. And basically, Microsoft is, without formally saying it, this is their tablet OS. They're not making Windows Phone 7 on tablet. They're making a much more powerful Windows 8 for tablet that looks like Windows Phone 7, more or less. And what's interesting this week is they've announced official required specs for tablets that want to run Windows 8.
And they're basically playing as close to Apple's business plan as possible while still letting other people manufacture hardware.
Yeah, so the good thing, like they did with Windows Phone, which I think worked pretty well, although they weren't quite strict enough, I don't think. But I think it's a good approach is say, you need to have at least this hardware.
Yeah.
And in terms of the tablet, it's a lot more practical things than actual hardware specs. They're not saying this much RAM and this much, that's determined by minimum system requirements for the OS in general.
Yeah.
But what they are saying is, on the tablet, you can have 5 buttons, no more than 5 buttons.
And no less than 5 buttons.
Yeah, so you have to have a Windows button, volume up, volume down, rotation lock, and power button.
Yeah.
And they're doing that so that the interfacing is always the same.
Yes.
No matter what, like in Android tablets, the buttons are on different sides of the devices. Some of them have buttons, some of them don't have as many buttons. So I think this is a really big advantage for that.
Because much like an iPad or an iPad 1 or an iPad 2, you pick up both devices and they operate exactly the same. You then go pick up an iPhone and it's exactly the same.
And see, now I can go pick up an Asus tablet for Windows or a HP tablet for Windows or a Dell tablet for Windows, and the interface will be exactly the same, which is a big advantage over Motorola versus Asus versus whatever on the Android front.
Now, a couple other things that they've done as well is they've required a minimum screen resolution.
1366 by 768.
Yep, as well as five-finger touch gestures as a minimum.
As a minimum. So you can go more, but realistically, most multi-touch is done with 5 or less.
Yes.
So I think that's they've kind of gone. Most of it's with 4 or less, if you think about it, that people actually use. So I think that's a good benchmark. They've said on your tablet, no matter what, the Control Alt Delete is Windows Key Power.
Yes.
Which you don't think is important, but if they hadn't set that, it could be very confusing.
It's true.
Cameras have to be at least 720p. Period. All cameras. So if you're doing 2 cameras, you're going to get a 720p front-facing camera.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool. ARM devices are to be locked on the bootloader. So what that means is that if you buy an ARM Windows tablet, which is cool because they'll run on ARM processors, which means you'll probably get good battery life.
Yeah.
But you can't dual boot it with Android.
Okay.
Without some work.
Yes. Which I'm sure will happen.
I'm sure people will get around it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You also need to have at least 10 gigs of hard drive space available after Windows installed with updates.
Yeah, which means that you won't be seeing any 8 gigabyte tablets at a super cheap price point just to get it on the market, which again is guaranteeing some sort of consistency for product usage.
Yeah, well, and I mean, realistically, you're going to want apps and media on this.
Yeah.
So I think 10 gigs is even a little small for most people, but at least it's a reasonable amount to start with. You're not going to be stuck with. Because, I mean, Windows 8 is going to have a bigger footprint than iOS will because it's a full-bore operating system.
Yeah.
So there's that to consider. Also,
Need a USB 2.0 port.
USB 2.0 port. They need to have, which I think is good because I can finally use a freaking thumb drive on my tablet.
Yes.
And
Well, unless it ends up being
the other way.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a properly usable USB. I imagine it will be, but I'm not 100% sure. There's a few other little things. Graphics drivers have to be updatable without a restart.
Which is interesting.
Very interesting because you're going to see different graphics chipsets, which you don't see on the iPad.
Yeah.
And there will be driver updates because it is Windows still. So that's a good step. And to compete with ARM, so you can have an ARM tablet. You can also have an Intel-based tablet, like a normal computer in
Which
tablet
delivers
form.
more power.
Exactly. I mean, we saw that i7 gaming thing from CES.
Yep.
So if you have an Intel-based tablet, it has to be able to resume in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So it can compete with that ARM availability, which is going to be tough,
Yes.
I think.
But it means that if you are paying a premium for an Intel-based tablet, you're likely going to get a premium in terms of performance.
Absolutely. And it means if I'm using an ARM tablet or a Windows tablet, the interface and the basic usability will be the same.
Yeah.
I just won't be able to run Assassin's Creed on my ARM tablet, maybe. So I think that's really good steps by Windows. I'm really excited for Windows 8 on tablets.
Yeah, I think it could be definitely a shift in the market when we start seeing a full-on computer.
I could see it crushing Android in the tablet market.
Yeah, it would really then become a race between iOS and Windows, depending on what the user wants out of their tablet.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited for that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Kind of quiet.
All right.
Welcome to Behind the Lens. First off, some somewhat sad news. A large player, well, what used to be a large player,
Yes.
in the photography industry, is finally, in my opinion, filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah, so Kodak has filed for Chapter 11, so they're in bankruptcy, asking for bankruptcy protection so they can restructure their company. But needless to say, when they come out of this, if they do properly come out of this, they will not be the force that they used to be.
No.
Which has really been a force that's been very much dwindling in the last decade.
Absolutely.
And when we compare it to the other major film manufacturer that's producing digital content, Fujifilm, who is actually on the rise right now because of recent very good choices in the way they're producing their products, it's kind of interesting to see these sort of polar extremes. Now, I mean, Kodak for a long time in digital was producing sensors for everybody, and that's where they were making their money. But the problem was that they really sort of floundered when it came to actually making digital cameras.
Oh, yes. All their point and shoots were not good.
I mean, they had a couple of models that were good, but overall, they were rather poor. And then they tried to make SLRs, and that didn't really work out well. And so it just seems like basically they've been making a lot of bad decisions, and it's finally caught up with them. And they spent the last little bit of time basically suing everybody to try and make some money.
Well, and that's the thing. They have a lot of patents because they've been around for so long.
And because they're making sensors for everybody for so long, that a lot of technology is built off of what Kodak had sort of originally invented.
Yeah.
Or, variations of that.
So I would say someone should probably buy Kodak.
Well, so, we're going to see what happens here. Part of me wants to say, yeah, buy them. But the other part of me wants to say that they really screwed up managing the digital portion of their company. And, film doesn't exist anymore, Kodak, so you can't stand on that leg. So I don't really feel bad for them, because if you're not going to make good products, then people aren't going to buy your shit.
No, and to be honest, this has been a long while coming.
It has, for sure.
People have been speculating that they were going to file for Chapter 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So the fact that it finally came about is not a big surprise.
Yeah. Anyway, the other bit of news this week is in regards to lens adapters. We talk a lot about Micro Four Thirds and mirrorless cameras and their ability to play with lots of different lenses. But one of the biggest nuts to crack has always been using Canon lenses. And that's because Canon is all digital. So their aperture is controlled digitally, their IS is controlled digitally, all the EXIF data is controlled digitally, and Canon doesn't really want you using your lenses on some other system, so they don't make it easy to access that
Absolutely.
stuff. So we've seen some adapters that have, or at least heard about adapters that were coming out that were going to give us aperture control, which is really the most important one, because not being able to control your aperture, whether it's for photo or video, is very limiting, because you really don't want to shoot wide open all the time, which is what you have to do with Canon lenses. But other people also want things like autofocus and image stabilization, and even possibly EXIF data for the photos that you're taking. So we've heard from Berger was going to make one for around $900, and Red Rock was thinking about making one, and we've seen some also adapters that basically add an aperture ring in there to sort of make up for that, but it's not as good as actually having true aperture control. So what's kind of interesting is that a company called Metabones, who makes high quality adapters, has come out now and built a digital conversion for Sony NEX mount to a Canon lens. And what's really interesting about it is that it has aperture control, it has image stabilization, which none of them to date have had, with the exception of the proprietary red mount.
Yeah.
And it also has EXIF data. So you don't get autofocus, but really that's the hardest one to do. And a lot of the time you're just okay with using manual focus. But the other big thing is a lot of these adapters also required that you had something plugged in to change the aperture. I believe I think the Berger one required a box that you, or an MTF one required a box that you dialed the aperture on.
An external aperture device of some kind.
Yeah, which just made the entire thing cumbersome, and basically if you weren't shooting video with a rig, it was useless. You definitely couldn't use it for stills on any of these mirrorless cameras. But the Sony one from Metabones does not require that. So you can actually change your aperture in camera, it's going to record that information, and you can use the image stabilization, which is pretty cool. But the best part about this is it's $400.
Yeah,
which is $200 cheaper than even the closest comparable one, and about $500 cheaper than the Berger one, which has been the most close to arriving version.
It makes it a lot more approachable for someone who is a Canon shooter and has a lot of Canon glass.
Yeah, because even if you own like two good lenses, $400 is a reasonable amount to spend to be able to use them.
Absolutely. And, you can't buy a Canon mirrorless camera.
At least not yet.
So they don't exist. So this is a good option to use lenses you already have.
Yeah.
Especially if they're really, really nice lenses on something smaller like a Sony NEX.
So it's a pretty cool announcement if you are someone who's shooting with an NEX5N, or if you've got an FS100 that you're shooting video with. This adapter looks to be the right price to feature ratio.
Absolutely.
Out there for sure. And I believe they were pre-ordering on eBay, because that's Metabones runs their whole site through eBay. And I think they're sold out right now. But what's interesting, we forgot to mention this, is they actually partnered up with a company out of Vancouver called Coronus, I believe, that's helping to produce these. So cool. It's a joint Asia-Canada thing, because Metabones is, I think, based out of Hong Kong or something like that.
Who isn't?
It's true. Yeah. Who in the camera world isn't based out of Hong Kong? So, a little bit of Canadian flair in there as well, because we're helping to make them to some degree. So it might be difficult to pre-order one right now, but they will be available quite soon, and I think they're expecting a release within a month or so.
Awesome.
And that brings us to the end of Behind the Lens for this week. And that brings us to the end of the show this week. As per usual, if you want to get a hold of us, you can send us a message on Twitter at @almost_Friday.
Or if Twitter's not your thing, you can always send us an email at contact@almostfridayshow.com.
Or you can sign up to Facebook, type in the Almost Friday Show in that search bar up at the top, and follow our show to get updates when we have new episodes up.
Absolutely. And like our page.
True. We like likes. Likes?
Mark Zuckerberg has ruined the English language.
Oh, he totally has.